Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm 𝙎𝙐𝘽𝙎𝘾. Well, in the late 1990s, Major League Baseball was booming. The boom came largely as the result of a resurgence of home runs. Baseballs were flying left and right off the bats of a new surge of muscular superstars, including Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, 𝙎𝙎𝘽𝙎𝘽𝙎, Jason 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎, Barry Bonds, and Jeff Bagwell, to name a few. But in the first 2 decades of the 21st century, investigations into the game revealed something of a mass cover-up of widespread steroid usage by countless stars in what would be the greatest scandal in baseball since the 1919 Black Sox betting scandal. Now, keep in mind, there's some speculation as to why and how this scandal came to be, but here's my take based on my research. The scandal itself actually began in the late 80s and early 90s with 2 separate black marks on baseball. The first was Pete Rose's allegation that he had bet on baseball games, that he'd been involved in them, which resulted in his lifetime banishment from the game. Now, the second and more important black mark came a few years later in 1994 with the players' strike, where owners and players could not come to a collective bargaining agreement. As such, the final 2 months of the season were wiped out, and including, for the first time since its birth in 1903, the cancellation of the World Series. So baseball needed some positive PR. Not only had it lost money, it had also lost good faith, good graces with baseball fans, and it found exactly what it needed in the previously mentioned force of new superstars who were tearing the cover off the ball. Now, in baseball, you have to understand, fans love home runs. They love a good moonshot off the bat, and they got it in the late 90s, specifically in 1998, when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa battled to break Roger Maris's single-season record of 61 home runs. McGwire got to 62 first and won the final chase with 70, beating Sammy Sosa's 66. 3 years later, Barry Bonds broke McGwire's record at 73. But during these years at the turn of the century, writers and fans noticed something, the massive size of these stars, and they started to question if something fishy was afoot. Sure enough, many stars, virtually all the players I just mentioned, were using illegal performance-enhancing drugs during their playing days. After his playing career was over, 𝙎𝙎𝘽𝙎𝘽𝙎, one of the chief users, wrote a tell-all in which he claimed over 80% of all Major League sluggers at this time used PEDs during what historians now call the steroid era. Now, though some disputed 𝙎𝙎𝘽𝙎𝘽's claims, many believe them to be true, especially in the years that followed, as numerous stars who had denied usage during their careers eventually admitted that they did in fact use PEDs. Now, as a final note of intrigue, many believe Major League Baseball knowingly turned a blind eye to this problem. It was only when its hand was forced, after many of the suspected users had retired, that baseball established a much stricter drug policy that brought suspensions and fines for first-time users and for continual users, lifetime banishment from the game. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.
If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. And if you want us to cover one of your favorite moments in history, you can tell us in the comments. Now stay tuned for some new content.